All right, team. I also wanted to check in on our friend in Brooklyn, Mr. Chadwick Moore. He is with us now. He is a columnist for Spectator USA, and he is, like me, on lockdown and also has a better beard, which makes me a little bit jealous. But good to see you, my friend.
Hey Buck, how's it going? Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Just promise me if you're going to go jogging, you're not going to wear a face mask during the jog. Okay, people are losing their minds in this city, and it's starting to freak me out.
Yeah, but then I might get reported by the squeal squad if I don't wear a face mask while jogging.
Aren't you a little bit taken aback by just how overt the nanny statism and the hall monitorization of America has become in some of these big cities? De Blasio, Garcetti, they're like, hey, if you see somebody, what are we going to take out, like, rulers, or how are we going to do these measurements? Oh, somebody was 3 feet away from somebody else in the grocery store. This is it's absurd beyond belief. But I think it really does show that, unfortunately, this has become, it's not even that it's just political. Political philosophy has gotten involved in this now, where the people that believe the state is competent think that the state should be able to do all these things.
Right, exactly. I keep thinking of that Ralph Wiggum meme, like, look, I'm helping, every time de Blasio tries to pretend like he's doing as much as Andrew Cuomo or Eric Garcetti. Look, just a couple months ago, the big story about these mayors, especially Eric Garcetti, was the absolute state of their cities in terms of the homeless crisis, the death, the disease, typhoid fever, bubonic plague on the streets and these homeless encampments. They were health department disasters. These cities, these public health workers, city officials, cops, people working in city hall, especially in Los Angeles, were getting diseases that we thought were wiped out in the Middle Ages. Now suddenly they think that they can control this. It's almost like, I guess that they feel they have to impose ever increasing draconian measures just to pretend like they're doing something, to pretend like they're helping. When by and large, what are these things actually doing? Nobody's really acknowledged the fact that the whole reason why people get sick more often in the wintertime is because they're indoors. It has nothing to do with the cold making breeding viruses. I mean, they do tend to die off more when it's warmer out, but it's people being indoors and in close proximity to each other. Being outdoors and maybe not large gatherings, but these are healthy things to do if you're staying away from other people.
And also I mentioned the nanny statism, but we're seeing something that some conservatives, and I will admit, some libertarians have been worried about for a while, and that is the leveraging of the biggest social media platforms as really a tool of the state to shut down. I mean, now Nebraska has had this, a bunch of other states. I can't think of them off the top. I think New Jersey was one of them, but a bunch of these states have had social media platforms say, no, you're not allowed to organize a protest against the lockdown measures on our program, on Facebook being the case in point, because the government says you can't. That any journalist would view that as anything other than a huge First Amendment red flag. I mean, I know you could say it's not the state, but the First Amendment, I mean, the free speech, perhaps a better way to put it. This is mind-boggling. I mean, now you can't even use social media platforms to redress, to gather together to redress your government for grievances.
Exactly. Yeah. It's right now. It's been California, Nebraska, and New Jersey. Mark Zuckerberg, the most trustworthy man in America, who everyone just loves, Cuddly Mark, said to George Stephanopoulos, I believe it was just today, or maybe it was over the weekend, said that we are removing pages of these groups that try to protest. Now, these issues of this government overreach, I mean, this is the stuff that really gets people who are into political philosophy on the right very fired up and very excited about. I mean, this is the definition of these government overreach measures. Look at Michigan, where you can't go fishing by yourself in the isolated Upper Peninsula, but and you can't buy your own seeds from the hardware store to grow your own food, but you can still buy lottery tickets. The governor can still have her hair and makeup done professionally before she goes on TV for 13 hours a day, but you can't go fishing. It's absolute government overreach. You can't even buy furniture. She doesn't want you decorating your homes. You can't visit your neighbors or family members. So just imagine if something that the left really cares about, say these social media platforms started saying that Antifa couldn't hold their imaginary anti-white supremacist rallies, whatever. How would the media be reacting? How would the left be reacting? I mean, it just goes to show what we know all along is these double standards, that the left is certainly the media is in the pocket of the government, and the left is certainly on their side. It's so egregious. These social media companies, obviously, they're doing nothing different than they've been doing forever, which is silencing voices on the right that they do not like. Used to be individual characters, individuals, individual posts from people. Now it's these groups that just want to organize to speak their minds. And they now that we have this crisis and everyone is freaked out, that these giant tech companies are increasingly shameless in admitting how much control they have and how much censorship they have. Google just the other day was proudly admitted that they're tracking people's movements by their cell phones in 131 countries to make sure that they're social distancing and staying at home.
Right. So just so we're clear, that they're being enlisted. And it's willing by these companies, although the companies, I'm sure, would say that they could be regulated by the state if they didn't. There'd be some executive order, right, that Facebook or Google has to share this data. They are being enlisted by the state to control what we can say, to prohibit gatherings specifically for political issues and redress of government, and to share our movements with the government. That seems like this is the stuff that people have been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, and anyone who ever made those comments about, well, these are private companies, they can do whatever they want, that eye-rolling company, this just goes to show how entwined they are with the governments in our states and our federal government, because they also are building our websites. The state governors and the federal government are happy to say that Google is helping them with their unemployment websites, with their COVID-19 websites. So these companies have been for a long time entrenched in the state. And now they are just waving in our faces, because who's really going to get upset if a bunch of right wingers in Michigan wanted to get together and express their grievances against the government? You may have also saw that tweet. I believe it was last week. North Carolina, a group in Raleigh wanted to organize, and the Raleigh Police Department tweeted that protesting is a non-essential activity. Well, if you want to get to the blood boiling of any Constitution lover, then there you have it.
And now there's one topic that we're switching gears here a little bit, but this comes from you, Chadwick. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain what this is. You wanted to discuss today how, quote, Joe Exotic is the greatest living gay role model, end quote. Please explain.
Well, that came from a column I wrote in The Spectator. Joe Exotic is, of course, the star of Tiger King that I'm sure most of your audience has seen by now. You've been talking about it. Yeah. Who would have thought that a gay man in leopard print glitter who ran a private zoo in Oklahoma would have brought the nation together during the biggest crisis in our lifetimes? But he seems to have. Well, it's interesting because what I love about him is I sort of compare him to, he's the chaotic libertine, right? And his arch nemesis, the Carol Baskin, is so perfectly this authoritarian, uptight. She's so Hillary Clinton. In a way, he's so Donald Trump. I think that's why a lot of one of the reasons why this show has resonated, because we're still reliving those two forces in our society, and these two in this weird microcosm of private zookeeping so perfectly put it together. But one thing that's interesting too is you might know, sure, he's got very sordid and grim life. There's drugs around him all the time. He seduces men constantly, but he throws a wrench into the whole gay lobby's narrative that, and this is something I've known for a long time, being from a rural part of Tennessee, that the red state America, places like Oklahoma, are filled with these homo hunting bigots, right? When actually it's more of this sort of in-group mentality. It always has been that, like, there's going to be differences, but someone like him, he celebrated his community, and he's wildly homosexual and out there, and it really destroys that narrative about the blanket bigotry of Trump country and red America.
And I just have to ask, do you think he's guilty, or you think he got set up?
I think he got set up. I think it's another one of these examples. I do. Now, I think that he, excuse me, not COVID. I think that it seems like, and we've seen this with lots of high profile trials lately. Like, you're gonna get some letters when I say this, but Harvey Weinstein, and I'm happy to go into why I feel that way. And with Roger Stone, with a bunch of other these high profile trials where government resources are poured in to investigate something, and they got to come up with something. they've got to, it's something like over 90%, 95% of federal cases end up in a guilty verdict or plea. I mean, when the federal government comes in, they're going to win.
97.
97. Now, this was a federal case. So the Fish and Wildlife came in, the FBI. So I don't think it was a murder for hire plot against Susan Baskin. I mean, that if you watch the film, it's extremely flimsy evidence. And but with the abusing animals, probably seems like he had some tigers that he owned who were maybe sick or too aggressive, and he just took them out himself and killed them and buried them. Well,
I'm just going to say this:
one
of the only things that the American people in general will not abide. I mean, murder for hire, people might be able to say, we all make mistakes. You serve your time. You abuse and or kill animals, like in an abusive way. People are out for you, man. They're coming for you. That is, especially dogs or cats, but tigers, cool animals like that too. The American people will not abide that at all. So I think you're right in that the opinion of the jury and everything. It wasn't the murder for hire thing. That's a little more like, well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's, oh, I'm sorry, you were abusing these beautiful big cats that you were entrusted with. Unacceptable. Wait, but hold on one second. There's one other thing. What do you have? Oh gosh, I'm like, how much trouble do I feel like really starting here? Do you have a little bit of a counter the narrative, a counter consensus, I should say, on Harvey Weinstein? Are you one of those?
I do. Yeah, and I wrote about it too because, I mean, look, he's disgusting. He's a scumbag. But if you actually look at what he was convicted of and you look at the charges, so you had, something like 100 women accuse him of various levels of inappropriate sexual behavior, sexual assault, or whatever that ranged from lots of different things. His trial in New York was only 2 women, right? They were several years old accusations. There were women that after they were together, sent him loving text messages, emails.
I know they had continued relationships. I talked about this on my show, so I'm not about to slam this down and say, oh, we can't have this discussion.
Yeah, well, the thing that gets me about him is nobody would doubt that he's not a disgusting person, but look at the culture behind that sent him away. I mean, that was another thing that was a jury of public opinion. He got 23 years for he said, she said. And when you look at the actual charges, so of course the media ran with convicted of rape in all the headlines, New York Times, blah, blah. Well, yeah, but not really. I mean, when you think of rape, you think of violent first-degree felony sexual assault. He was actually convicted of like third-degree statutory rape. And when you read it, it's actually the victim felt that they were unable to consent because of circumstance or the other person's, physical prowess. So basically, like, she felt she couldn't say no because he was fat and because he was powerful. So she never said yes. She never said no. This is kind of like nitpicky stuff. But the reason why, and I still remain interested in this case, is this culture is coming for everyone. He just happens to be the worst one. Everyone knew this was happening in Hollywood. But every man out there, if Harvey Weinstein can get 23 years for he said, she said from several years ago, and the charges are basically he had some grim sexual encounter with someone and she didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. And where's that leading our culture? I mean, at least he did get due process.
I've been saying, look at what they've done. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. We have a delay, but look at what they've done with Kavanaugh, and now what they've tried to do with Biden. By the standard will be weaponized to the utmost when it's politically useful, and it will also be discarded the moment that it's problematic. And as I've said, the standard that they have set with Weinstein, by the way, I actually I hadn't heard your analysis. I completely agree with you. Okay. I think that this is an instance. So, and you and I would get yelled at for this by a whole lot of people, but I think we're right. I continue to have to say that someone is guilty of rape in a circumstance like this with so little evidence, to say it's beyond a reasonable doubt, and a continuing relationship does not cast willful sexual relation does not cast any doubt on the allegation. That's setting up people for down the line. Anybody can, as they say, get got by this one. Anybody could be in a whole lot of trouble. There's really no way how do you defend yourself? Someone says, oh, that one night, of the hundreds of times. But anyway, Chadwick, I think we've caused enough trouble for today, my friend. How are you doing out in Brooklyn? You staying safe and staying indoors?
I am, I work from home, so not much has changed. And, my house looks great. I've been gardening and painting. And I'll tell you what I've noticed is Brooklynites in my neighborhood are not, I'm not going to snitch by any means, but I've noticed they're a little defiant. They're not wearing the masks. When it's nice out, they're out and about. I've noticed fewer people in Manhattan.
The big pushback is coming, my friend. We'll have you back on to talk about that and more. Chadwick Moore, everyone. Check him out at the Spectator USA. Follow him on the social media. Chadwick, thanks so much. Just want to remind everybody that we have stories going up now daily on bucksexton.com. The website is locked and loaded, my friends. This is now a site where I want you getting a lot of information, not just from the radio show. It'll be posting audio, and you can listen to the podcast there, but also we're using this now as a news resource. We're updating it constantly. It's taken us a while to finally staff up to get to the point where we really have the website where we need it to be, for it to be honestly worthy of the rest of the Freedom Hunt. We're there now. bucksexton.com. Add it to your bookmark websites, please. Check in there regularly. You'll see also, if you're not on Twitter, this is great. My tweet game is very strong. You know, I talk about Twitter sometimes on the show. You'll see my tweets popping up there on bucksexton.com. Producer Mark, am I leaving anything else off from the website that makes it amazing?
It's just more Buck Sexton content, and what isn't amazing about that, Buck?
Correct. Just lots of content. We'll even have show transcripts sometimes we'll put up there, stories. You can listen to the podcast there. So anytime, by the way, if you miss the show and you're not somebody that listens to podcasts, just go to bucksexton.com and you can easily just listen on demand at the site there. It's very, very straightforward. So I really want the team to now get in the habit of going to the website on a regular basis. It's so useful for communicating with all of you during this whole crisis, and going forward, we're really going to be using it a lot. You can also find your local station, your nearest station that's airing the show, and you can listen on demand very easily. Just go to listen and then click on podcast, and it is right there. Okay, now my friends, let's. Don Lemon had some thoughts. Play 16.
Does the president not understand that him coming out there every day and acting like a jerk is not going to help him with the American people? The American people are tired of it. It shows in the polling that people are watching every day because they want information about saving lives. They want to know where they are, when they can actually go back to work, and not about what a great job he's doing when everyone knows there's not enough testing. People don't want to go back to work if there's not enough testing. People are reticent to go back to work if there aren't tests, if they don't know if they have antibodies, if that's actually going to protect them from getting this virus. Is there a disconnect in the White House with this president? Does anybody talk to him about that? Does anyone have the courage to stand up to this person, to this bully, as we see him in this briefing room every day, to give him a real talk and say, hey, listen, you need to get out there and tell the American people the truth and stop acting like a big bully?
Now, I know that was really stupid, right? But I made you listen to it because just remember, folks, CNN claims that individual is not an opinion commentator, but that Don Lemon is a journalist, a news anchor journalist. Roll call. And today at the roll call, I say go to bucksexton.com. And we should also put, producer Mark, let's make a note. Let's make it so that people can send us comments at bucksexton.com somehow. Can we put up like a comment board or something? You know the technological things.
I will reach out to our website people.
Because we now have website people.
Yeah.
So, yes, we have a team. We're all working together on this. So we're going to try to set up so you can also, maybe we'll even set up some kind of a comment board and people, they can post comments there. It'd be great to have one place for all of Team Buck to be able to converse with each other. And, there we go. So let's keep it going, folks. That's the plan. That's how we roll. That is what we are going for here. It is 420 today, but I don't think anyone's going to be making a lot of weed jokes. No one's really feeling that right now. Although I bet weed sales in places where it's quasi-legal. Remember, it's never legal in the federal sense, but it's legal in the state sense. I bet weed sales have gone very high in this whole process.
Pun intended.
See what I did there? I didn't even mean to, but the jokes, they still happen. Roll call. Let's do it. Hey, Buck. This is Don. I'm one of the essential workers that rarely gets a mention, delivering Grubhub and DoorDash. Out here in Colorado now, but I'm a displaced islander. Escaped New York in 1999 due to the shooting on the Long Island Railroad and the First Trade Center bombing. I'm almost in the age danger zone for this, but I wanted to get out and help the restaurant stay alive out here. Felt it was my mission to help out. Keep up the good work and shield time, my man. Love the show. Well, Don, thank you for doing what you're doing, man. You're helping. You're providing a lifeline to these restaurants and the people who work in them and also people in the community. You know, the only thing right now that allows me to have really have human contact in my day-to-day, other than getting to get some chat with producer Mark going here, is I see somebody. I don't even really see them anymore. That's true. They drop it at the door. So, but at least it's a nice little surprise. Like, oh, Thai food, yay! You know, it's look. We all need our little things, our little moment of things are not normal, but at least there's still ways you can have something to look forward to day in and day out. So, Don, thank you for doing what you're doing. And out there in Colorado, huh? Freedom 93.7 in Denver. We love you guys. Thank you for continuing to listen to the show. Mike writes in, hey, Buck and producer Mark, I work in a large Fort Worth hospital. It is a ghost town right now. We have almost 900 beds and currently have about 400 patients. Our emergency department normally has 150 at any one time. Now usually has about 20 to 25 at any given time, down 65% inpatient volume. With nearly 4,000 employees, I don't see how this hospital is going to make it without the feds paying for the service that they shut down. Mike, thank you for reaching out. I've been talking about this. I'm going to continue to follow it. The federal government is forcing hospitals in the name of expanding and protecting our healthcare capacity. The federal government is forcing some hospitals to go bankrupt. That's what's going to happen here. That's why they're going to need to have a huge bailout for the hospitals. Everyone's going to be asking for bailouts. There's no business. Hospitals are furloughing employees all over the place. They have no money coming in. And most hospitals don't have a huge COVID problem. Vast majority of them don't have a huge COVID problem. So what are we doing? This is the world we're living in right now. Government says we do. We don't question. Greg, greetings, Buck. Thanks so much for having Devin Nunes on the show yesterday. I was so relieved to hear the pressure continue to run the Russia scam, that the pressure continues to run the Russia scam to ground. I'm hopeful this effort will eventually lead to prison time for deserving miscreants such as Brennan, Clapper, and Hillary. I would also like to see the investigation expanded. How many years ago did Schiff learn the Russia hoax was just a Hillary dream, yet he pursued character assassination, slander, and impeachment under false pretenses with his claims that the Schiff fabricated phone call content demonstrated a continuing pattern of Trump seeking alliances with other countries to interfere in U.S. elections? Thanks for all the great research and guests. Pass my regards to Tallulah and producer Mark. Shields high. Well, producer Mark will certainly get it. Tallulah right now is passed out on the couch in the sunlight. That's her favorite thing. She has a good setup, I got to say. You know, it's she rejected. I made her I cooked for her 2 different meals over the weekend for her dog food, because we don't give her dog food. We give her like human food that's meant for dogs. So, or not meant for dogs, but that dogs can eat, you know, chicken and ground beef and things like that. She rejected 2 bowls, producer Mark. I had to make her a 3rd meal before she would actually eat it. She swats the bowl away with her nose when it's like, get this out of my face, peasant. Bring me real food.
Now, what do you do with the food that she doesn't eat?
Well, usually she's kind of like licked it and sniffed it, and it's a little gross, so we kind of toss it.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, I mean, you know,
like, Buck,
I'm not trying to be wasteful or anything, but usually if the dog has already sniffed it and licked it and everything else. And also, I do have dry food for the dog that does not smell particularly good that you put in with the chicken and stuff. So, like, I'm not eating that stuff.
Well, then I understand why she wouldn't want to eat it. That stuff's gross.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true. So she's very snooty, or snouty, perhaps, as the case may be. Adam, Buck, here in Michigan, we're seeing the beginnings of We Will Not Comply. Seeing lots of fights on social media, been involved in a few. As you say, the argument always evolves into you want to kill grandma. Keep up the swoop and shields high. Yeah, Adam, and people are dug in now to their trenches on this. They don't want to look at facts and logic. They just want to be right, and they want other people to do what they tell them to do, which is I think there's a really deep philosophical separation between those of us who want personal freedom and want others to have the same, and those for whom freedom is a constant threat. Individual freedom is a constant threat to their perception of a good and ordered society, and they really think that the smarter, better people should be telling the other people what to do all the time. They're known as liberals, which is a bad name for them because they oppose liberty. But the left, but it's more than just the designation as political left. It's really a mindset. I think this is a deep separation in the brain between those who think that human beings should be able to pursue their own destiny, and within some limits. Obviously, I'm not an anarchist who's saying that we should have no government and nothing, but that we should have day-to-day choices and freedom. And the other people out there who think that anyone's real freedom is a threat to their sense of order and safety, and safety not just meaning physical safety, but their emotional safety, their psychological safety. This is like I've told you, the line about a Puritan is someone who worries that someone somewhere might actually be having a good time. In America today, a liberal is a person who someone somewhere is very concerned that someone might actually be living a free and prosperous life without being told what to do all the time. Also, I mentioned this at the top of the show. I wanted to get back to it. If you're looking for books to read, Homage to Catalonia is Orwell's third best work, in my opinion, or perhaps most powerful work. It's actually, you could argue, it's better. Well, no, Animal Farm's amazing for what it is. I was going to say you could maybe argue, and 1984 is the best, but Homage to Catalonia is nonfiction. It's about George Orwell's time. By the way, you asked me for book recommendations. If you have not read 1984, Animal Farm, and Homage to Catalonia, 1, 2, all three, those should be top of your read pile right now. To everybody listening, if you have not read those books, please read at least one while we're all in lockdown. The first one I would say is 1984. For the adults, maybe then Homage to Catalonia, and then maybe Animal Farm. But you should read all of them, and they won't take you long. Those are books you should all read. But I noted this that Orwell, this was making the rounds on social media the weekend, that Orwell had this quote because he hated journalists, because journalists are generally often very bad and self-interested and gross people. Quote, "It was the first time I had seen a person," this is referring, I think, to communist agitprop inside of the Spanish Civil War. Oh, that's what Homage to Catalonia is about, is that Orwell was fighting on the side of the communists against the fascists in the Spanish Civil War. And he said, "It was the first time that I had seen a person whose profession was telling lies, unless one counts the journalists. I do not suppose I should exaggerate if I said that 9/10 of it is untruthful. Nearly all the newspaper accounts published at the time were manufactured by journalists at a distance and were not only inaccurate in their facts, but intentionally misleading." So, yeah. Journalists, bad. Do not have a good record for truth telling. Just look up Walter Duranty if you want to know how much, the really elite journos, what kind of ethics they often display. So we're in roll call. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. But as for the swoop is out of control. I don't know. I might have to go. The producer Mark has a buzz cut, and I might be following in his footsteps.
Yeah, my wife just cut my hair. Like, I'm pretty much bald right now.
There we go. Hey, how long does it take you when you get out of the shower to dry that bad boy?
Like half a second.
Yep, that's what I thought.
You need a blow dryer and all those tools, don't you?
Oh yeah, all the king's horses and all the king's men. I will say I did cook a lot over the weekend, and we're now going to we'll start referring to my special. The executive chef of all things Buck and Quarantine is my girlfriend, current lady friend, who we can refer to now in code name as Snow Princess, because that is in fact what I call her, because she's from a very snowy, very cold part of the country. And Snow Princess and I made amazing food this weekend. We made. So I'm always in charge of the red meat and the protein. At least I shouldn't say always in charge, but that's my favorite thing to be. She's going to yell at me for saying that. I'm just kidding, honey. But that's my favorite thing to be in charge of. She's in charge of all the fancy. She made chocolate chip cookies from scratch. They're the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. She made béarnaise sauce for the burgers. She made risotto with shrimp. I helped a little bit chopping some onions, but she made risotto with shrimp and calamari. And I'm just going to say this, producer Mark, I posted some photos of this for Team Buck to see, and the food was all delicious. A lot of Team Buck talking smack about calamari. Where do you fall on the scale?
About liking it?
Yes.
So, a funny story about calamari. When I was a child, you know those buffets in New York City where you just get like a container, you put a bunch in, and then you weigh it and you pay that much money? I got a bunch when I was a child and thought it was onion rings. So then I eat it and I was disgusted. But then later on in life, I tried calamari. It's not bad.
You're just not bad on calamari?
Like, it's not so. If it's made well, fine. I will eat it. I like it. If it's made poorly, you know that you're eating octopus.
I'm just gonna call out Team Buck right now. A lot of calamari haters out there in this audience across the country. I was surprised to see all that. Shrimp, they're cool with. They're cool with shrimp. Calamari, no dice. Unacceptable.
There are some people I know that if it was in the water, they don't want it. It's disgusting to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that to me, I've never come across that. That's crazy. What is, by the way, with kosher? It's just no shellfish, right?
Yeah, no shellfish.
Other fish, okay, but no shellfish. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I do not keep kosher. I love shrimp.
Yeah,
and all shellfish.
Shrimp. I mean, shellfish is my favorite of the fish, so I'm one of those. Andy, but I like to share because I don't want to be shellfish.
Oh.
Yeah, I deserve that. Hey, I was alone for the. Well, actually, I wasn't alone this week, and that's a lie. I was gonna say I have no justification for that bad joke. Andy, hey Buck, I have an opinion on meats. There we go. Perfect timing. You always talk about the best steaks, but I think lamb chops are where it's really at. They're like tiny T-bones, but twice the meaty succulence. Also, mustache with no beard is definitely a bad call unless you can grow a huge, bushy, old-timey mustache. Shields High from Ohio. Well, I can tell you, Andy, that it's very unlikely I can grow a bushy, old-timey mustache. And as for lamb, I love lamb chops. I don't know. I've actually never made them for myself. I feel like there's always some Frenching or something you have to do. You have to like cut the fat off, and I guess the butcher can do that for you. But where are you on lamb chops, Producer Mark?
I love lamb chops, but like you, I've never made them myself. But I love a good Greek cuisine, so. I
did make veal chop recently for the Snow Princess and myself, and it was phenomenal. I did do that.
You're going to get some people not liking that, Buck.
Oh. I didn't mean veal. I meant adult cow. Because don't eat veal. My bad. Just, yeah. Let's move on, shall we? Virginia. Your Biden impersonation is the funniest thing I've heard in days. Thank you for the laugh. Wait. First of all, hold on a second. Why? No, I'm not going to get into the veal versus lamb debate. I'm going to get lit up on social media. Virginia, I'm glad that you enjoy the Biden impersonation. Thank you so much. I don't even know what I did to do it, but it just sort of got stuck in my head, and it's sort of the World War II and he just starts talking about stuff. We'll come together and we'll make it. And yep. David writes in, good interview with Jack Carr. I just saw that he has Ray Porter doing the audio versions of his books. That's a fantastic choice because Ray is one of the elite in the business, one of my favorites. Now to download all 3 books. Hey, that's great, man. I told Jack Carr, I'm reading right now. I mean, I'm reading slowly, but I'm reading Savage Son, and Jack's a great guy, really strong reputation from everyone I've talked to in the media military community. I think he's a great dude. And he's the real deal, and such a nice guy. And like so many of the true operators that I have known, and even some that I was able to work alongside as a little civilian, analyst person, very humble about all that stuff. Whenever I've come across, with very few, I can't even think of an exception. I'm sure there are exceptions, but all the Rangers and Delta and SEALs and PJs that I've come across who have been in real combat. They're not rocking around flexing all the time. That's been my experience. They're professionals who are silent about their exploits. I shouldn't say silent about it, but who are humble about their exploits. There we go. Steven. Hold on. Diane first. We got to hold Steven for tomorrow. Remember, everyone, go to bucksexton.com. Check out the website. I've got a story there on the New York City subway situation that I want you to read. Diane, Buck, what's up with Nancy Pelosi's disconnection with the needs of the people currently under duress? She has this let them eat cake, apparently with gourmet ice cream, attitude. My guess is she didn't do well in European history to know that approach did not serve public figures well in the past. Shields high. Diane, Nancy Pelosi is a smug elite lib, and that's never going to change. And she doesn't care how disconnected from people's pain she is. She's just about Nancy Pelosi and the left-wing cause. So, look, I don't hate on artisan ice cream. I like fancy ice cream, and I admit it. Okay, I like all ice cream too much. Job of the buck, but fancy ice cream I'm good with. But I'm also in tune with how people have real challenges. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Fantastic to have the team with me. We're getting through this, team. You noticing that? We're going to get through this together. We're getting through it. We'll be there. We'll be on the other side of this before you know it. Until then, shields high.